Fahrenheit 451 by the author Ray Bradbury.
Have you ever seen a physical book before? Do you want to know what's inside? Insanity. Chaos.
By the time you guys grow up, there won't be one book left.
Yes, sir!
Little knowledge is a dangerous thing. News, facts, memoirs, internetable. Burn it. We are not born equal, so we must be made equal by the fire. I want to burn.
Thesis is, the theme of rebirth is profoundly explored in this novel and proves that censorship and lack of knowledge create a mindless society that must fall before it can once again become great. Okay, so the characters. First, the main character is Montag. He's a firefighter and he's very emotionally unstable and acts out of aggression and anger pretty frequently. He's also very determined, and once he puts his mind to something, he will get it done and he will not let it go until it's done. Then there's Faber. He's a retired English teacher and he describes himself as cowardly, although in the book he does display some great acts of bravery. He also loves books. When Montag says that he has a book, he gets very excited, and he gets very excited to hatch a plan with him to overthrow the government or try and start to make some change. Then there's Montag's boss. He is cunning and devious. He reads people very easily. Like when Montag stole a book, he knew exactly that was happening, and he went over to Montag's house and talked to him, and then later sent the Hound over to his house to confirm his suspicions. He also hates books. He does read lots of literature and knows lots of quotes from books, but he doesn't use this to help books and knowledge. He uses this to demonize them and to make them sound awful and horrible and like they will hurt people and society. Then there's Clarice. She describes herself as an outcast and not like the other children. She's very inquisitive, which is very odd because most people in this society don't question things and just go along with it. Her and her family also seem very genuinely happy. They don't do things that normal families do. They don't watch TV and sit inside all day. They go outside and are one with nature. They go on hikes and they just seem very happy. Then there's Granger. He's intelligent and patient with Montag. He's also confident in the strength of the human spirit. He believes that once they go back to the bombed city, that the humans are going to realize their mistake and they're going to realize that knowledge is the way to go, and he just really believes that humans will do the right thing. Then there's Mildred. She is Montag's wife. She's obsessed with TV and is always consuming media in some way or another. She does this because she's very unhappy and empty, and she distracts herself. At the beginning of the book, she actually tries to commit suicide, but the next day she says she would not do that because she thinks she's too happy, but in reality, she just is distracting herself and she can't see that she's unhappy. She's also very narrow-minded. Once Montag brings back a book, she says they should immediately burn it and follow the law, and she just really likes to follow the law. Okay, so now on to the summary. First, Montag meets Clarice. He finds her very interesting and different, and this makes him question why they are different and why she seems so different than the rest of society. Then he goes home and he sees that his wife Mildred has overdosed. After she's good and fine, this makes him wonder why she would do this, because she always seems so happy, and this actually makes him question if he himself and her are really truly happy. Then, once he goes to his work the next day, he actually watches a woman sacrifice herself for her books, and this makes him wonder, why are books so special and what's in them? And that there has to be something special in them. This makes him actually steal a book. The next day, he wonders about Clarice, and he asks his wife where Clarice has gone. She actually tells him that Clarice is dead. This makes him very sad because he did find Clarice very interesting and did like her, but this also makes him very nervous because he believes the reason she's dead is because she had books, or because she was so different that she had books, and this makes him scared because he also has just stolen a book. Then Beatty comes to visit Montag, and he tries to say that the government isn't the one controlling the people. They didn't take away books to control the people or to do anything devious. The people actually did this, and they chose this life. He basically tries to convince him that books are not good because he does hint at knowing that Montag did steal a book, so he tries to convince him to go and do the right thing and burn that book. Then Montag meets with Faber, and they hatch a plan to take down the government, or begin to take down the government, and place books into firemen's home and then report them, so then the firemen will get their houses burned down and it will start to make the system fall apart. Then Mildred actually ends up reporting Montag, and Beatty takes Montag to his house and forces him to burn his own house, and then he's supposed to get arrested because he had books in his house. But Montag actually ends up killing Beatty and killing the two other firemen that were there, and then he flees. After he flees, he goes to the train tracks and meets with a group of intellectuals, including Granger, who have memorized books and have lots of knowledge. Then, after the city is burned, the intellectuals and Montag actually decide to march towards the city with a mission to create a better society and spread their own knowledge. Okay, so my first theme is technology and how it controls the people. So let's look at this through a bit of a Marxist lens. This first quote is, "The Hound follows the direct orders of Captain Beatty, a fireman who is in no way perfect, having read much literature in his time as a fireman." In this book, Beatty represents the bourgeoisie in a Marxism lens, being above the rest of the people and above the middle-class society. So this first piece of technology is the Hound, and it is controlled by Beatty, who himself has read lots of literature, and so have other firemen, but it doesn't go after them because he is not trying to control the firemen. He knows that they're good. He's trying to control the citizens, and this acts as a means of control and oppression for the citizens. Then the second quote is about the media. "There's a constant flood of information that numbs the person, stripping away any sense of individuality and enforcing the ideology by repetition." The major character that we see in this book that faces this is Mildred. She's always distracted and always thinks she's happy. This is because they're controlling her thoughts and making her think that she is happy through the media and the TV that she watches. This also controls everyone else by repetition, and when it is pounded into their heads so many times, they eventually just think what the government wants them to think, and they have no thoughts themselves. Then, an example of this being a capitalist society and following the Marxist theory is when Mildred talks to Montag about buying a fourth wall for her TV. She says it's only $2,000, and she is forced to think this because she wants to be perfect. She wants to be like everyone else, and she needs to fit in, and the government has made her think this way. My second theme is ignorance and how people need knowledge to thrive in society. This quote is Granger comparing society to a phoenix after it has just been bombed. He says, "We've got one damn thing the phoenix never had. We know the damn silly thing we just did, and as long as we know that and always have it around where we can see it, someday we'll stop." This is saying that people need knowledge and cannot be ignorant to do the right thing. It's saying that if people do not know history, they are bound to repeat it. So in order to create a better and more prosperous society, people cannot be ignorant, and they need to have the knowledge of history to make things better. Symbols of ignorance in the book. The first symbol is the sand in the sieve. The sand represents knowledge, and the sieve represents the government. They only let through bits and pieces of knowledge that will fit their narrative and control the public. An example of this is Montag's death. Montag does not actually die, but he sees himself die on the TV. This is to control the public and make them think that the threat is gone, so they are ignorant and still happy. Then, flowers and dirt. Flowers represent perfection and dirt represents imperfection. Everybody wants to be ignorant to the imperfections and just be flowers growing on top of flowers. But Faber explains how this is unattainable and unachievable. My third and final theme was rebirth. Symbols of rebirth in this novel are the phoenix. The phoenix is a symbol of rebirth for the entire society. Granger talks about how the phoenix rises from the ashes and becomes better with every version, and talks about how this society, after the bombing, can rise from the ashes once again and become better. Then there are mirrors. Mirrors are more of a personal rebirth, and they represent seeing your true self. For example, Clarice awakens in Montag the capability to inquire about things and people around him. In this novel, Clarice actually acts as a mirror to Montag, showing him his true self and making him question a lot of the reality around him. Later in the book, when the city is being bombed, Montag also thinks about his wife Mildred in a hotel room, looking into a mirror and realizing how shallow her life truly was, and being, in a sense, rebirthed to her real and true self. This society follows a key Marxist idea. That idea is you need the complete destruction of society before a new society can develop. The way that this society follows this is when Granger and the intellectuals are talking to Montag before the city has been bombed, they say that they are just going to keep doing what they're doing, just keep roaming the train tracks and staying on guard for when the war begins, because after the war begins and society begins to crumble and fall apart, then, and only then, can they go back to the city and begin to spread their knowledge and make a change. But they think that right now the ideas have been placed and ingrained in society so hard that there's no way that they could ever change it. It needs to be destroyed and taken down before there can be a change that is made. My rating of Fahrenheit 451. Overall, I really liked it. At the beginning, it was kind of slow and a bit confusing, but near the end of the first part, and definitely in the second and third parts, I'd say it really picked up and became a lot more interesting. The novel is pretty thought-provoking, and it has a lot of symbols that you have to decode, so if you like books that have a lot of hidden meaning and things that you have to really think about, then this book is probably for you. And it also really relates to society today, which I thought was interesting. There's a lot about technology and how it's controlling us, and once again, it's just pretty thought-provoking in that way. So yeah, overall, I'd give this book about like a 4 out of 5, and say that it was pretty good.